My name is Joseph Reuben Johnson. I was born the 31st of May in 1925. I was born in a little town called Goodway in South Alabama in Monroe County. My father was a farmer. There was 15 of us children, 7 girls and 8 boys.
Tell me about how you got into the military. The story about stopping the plane.
Well,
Was
okay.
That was later.
Oh, that was later. Oh, sorry.
That was after he got back.
Oh, okay.
That's how he got into the Air Force.
Okay. Okay.
Tell me how I got in the military.
Yeah. So how did you get in the military?
Well, I had 3 brothers in the military, and I begged my daddy to let me go in to help get them home, and he wouldn't let me go. I begged him and begged him and begged him, and finally, one day he said, "Boy, if you don't quit aggravating me, I'm going to sign them papers." I said, "Boy, I put in on him then." Him and Mama finally decided to sign the papers and let me get in. I went to Fort McClellan, Alabama, and I took an oath and covenant there to swear in the military. I went from there to Fort McPherson, Georgia, got all of my uniforms and stuff, took a little training. Then they sent me from there to Fort Eustis, Virginia. We got to Fort Eustis, Virginia. There wasn't nothing up there but an oak thicket. They said there's 10 acres here belongs to the military. You got to cut all these trees down, and you'll get your equipment in about 10 days. So we cleaned up the place, and we got the Corps of Engineers to bring some slag in there and fix the parking lot. And we heard this train coming. They had our equipment on the train. They had 40 millimeters and M1s, trailers. And I said, "Well, right, what they gonna put me on?" So they said, "Well, Johnson, we're gonna put you on the 40 millimeter Bofor." So, "Well, that's all right. I'll try it." So they said, "Well, we'll find out how good a shot you are." Well, they took us out to Virginia Beach, and there's a plane out there pulled a sleeve behind it, about 1,000 yards behind it. And they said, "Johnson, it's your turn. See what you can do." I took that 40 millimeter and blowed it right out of the sky. Not the plane, but the sleeve. And they went around and gave me another and said, "You think you can hit this?" And I blowed the second one out. They said, "You go over there. You don't need no more training. You all right. You don't have to do nothing. No, you got it." Well, I was born and raised on a farm. I could shoot the squirrels out. I had 150 yards, so I could work on them.
So how did you wind up with Patton? Did you get handpicked to do that, or just randomly assigned?
Well, I don't know why. I don't know how come he wound up with Patton. I didn't know that, but they assigned us to the 3rd Army. But they told us when they assigned us, said, "You can't tell nobody what army you're going into." Well, I didn't know what army I was going into. And when we landed on the Normandy beachhead, the 6th of June, 1944, a young lady, the first wave, the second wave, and the 3rd wave got knocked out. None of them kids got in. The 4th wave got just a few in it. And then they called for the 5th. I was in the 5th. And they said, "Well, the 5th, you got to go in." Well, we got on the beachhead. I waded that water with my N1 rifle over my head, right up to my titties, right there. That water was right up to my titties, right there. Excuse the language, but that's what it was. I got on the beachhead. We landed on the Omaha. We landed next to the Omaha beachhead. It was the Utah beachhead.
So once you got on the beachhead, what was your job specifically? Were you just
Kill Germans.
kill Germans?
My job was to kill Germans.
What did you experience, though, as you came in that day? Do you remember what it looked like before you even landed on the beach? What was around you?
Little boys just scattered on that beach, looking, just piled up out there. They stacked some of them kids on the sand that was already dead. They never got in, so they were trying to get those bodies stacked on the sand so they could send them back to be buried. Yeah.
How much time was there, like, between the first wave and when you went in with the 5th wave?
Well, the first wave went in about I think the first wave went in around 9 o'clock that morning. But we didn't go in until about 1:30 or 2. Yeah. Because there's a lot of carnage going on. Good land, a lot of it.
So how did y'all secure the beach? How'd the fifth wave secure the beach?
Well, we got on the beach head, and we began to moor them Germans down. We was taking care of them. We had the stuff to do it with, so that's what we were doing. And there was a Omaha beach head was up high, and the Germans had a artillery gun up there, and they were shooting 105 Hauser artillery, and they were busting our ships and shooting them in amongst us. And I told my platoon sergeant, I said, Sergeant Waters, let me go up there and see what I can do. He said, Joe, you don't need to go up there on that. You got them guys up there. You can't. There's too many of them guys up there. You can't do that. I said, well, you give me some cover and let me see what we can do. So I went around behind there, and them Germans was firing at 105, and I pointed that rifle at them. They said, Octoon's attention. I said, get it. I said, shove it over the thing down on the beach. And so I made them push that 105 down. It went down on the sand. Went down there about 100 feet. That stopped that. And Sergeant Waters said, Johnson, I'll be damned. I can't believe you done that. I said, well, Sarge, I was trained to do military work, and so I need to do it. Well,
Yeah. Do you remember about that gun that y'all breached and it's still there today in concrete?
Yeah. Well, the wing commander out at 14th Flying Training Wing, Columbus Air Force Base, he was a friend of mine, so he called me out there and he said, Mr. Johnson, you think you can remember the beachhead you went in on? I said, well, they told us we went in on the... Well, we didn't know what beachhead it is. There wasn't no signs there. Nobody welcomed us. So there's no sign there. I said, I don't know if I can remember or not, Colonel. He showed the first beachhead. I said, no, that's not it. Kept showing him and got on down. When he showed the fifth one, I said, whoa, stop. He said, what? I said, there's where I went in. That old big gun there. There's a gun there about that big around with a barrel, and we done knocked the bleach out of it, so it couldn't fire. I said, that's where I went in right there. He said, Mr. Johnson, you didn't go in on the beachhead they said you went on. You went in on the Utah beachhead. So, well, I didn't know that. See, I didn't know that till 70 years later. I didn't know what beachhead I went in on.
The Omaha Beach, and it was actually Utah Beach.
Wow. Anything else about Normandy?
Anything else about Normandy that you want to share?
Yes, I sure do. Well, I felt so sorry and it was so sad. Our little boys was crippled and they was crying for their mother, bless their hearts. You just wanted to cry. Some of them had their legs blowed off, their arms blowed off, and we did everything we could do to console them and help them and stop the blood the best we could do. We put tourniquets on there and stop them with whatever we could do. And young lady, I'd never give blood in my life. So they come down there and said, Johnson, you need to go give some blood. I said, I never give blood in my life. I don't know what I've got to do. So go down to that tent down there. She said, first you go, let me show you something. He pulled a curtain back and he said, you see that little boy laying there? If you don't give some blood, he's going to die in a few minutes. His legs blowed off. I said, I'll give you a gallon. Take a gallon of it. Take a gallon of it.
So, tell me the story about going into Auschwitz. About, let's see, Patton told you to get some TNT, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. Dachau?
Was it Dachau?
Dachau, that prison camp, Dachau. Yeah. Well, we didn't know what we was going to do. Eisenhower called Patton and said, George, you have got to send somebody up to Dachau and shut down that camp up there. They gas those women and children 2,000 or 3,000 a day. You've got to shut it down if you can. Well, he come down there and he said, right here, from you people here, go to the motor pool and fill up, get all the fuel you can put in your vehicles, get some extra 5-gallon cans, put on the side of the fender, and strap them down because you're going to need some extra fuel. And go by that ordnance depot down there and get all the ammunition you think you need. And he said, Johnson, come in. He said, do you know what TNT is? I said, well, yeah, I know what TNT is. A pound of it is worse than a case of dynamite. I said, it'll blow you to kingdom and come. He said, well, you got to go down to the ordnance depot and get some. I want to get 6 pounds of TNT. So I went down to the ordnance depot, and he said, get the primer caps that goes with it. The guy will know what you need. So I went down there, and I said, Sarge, Colonel Smith sent me down here to get some TNT. He said, well, who are you? I said, I'm Private Johnson, first class. I said, if you don't give me that TNT, you ain't going to have no job at 5 o'clock, I can tell you that, because that colonel's upset. So he said, I don't break a case of TNT. So he laid a case up there with 20 pounds in it. I said, I don't need that much. He said, well, you got it anyway. Do what you want to do with it. So I took it, and so I went on up there, and so Sergeant Porter, my platoon sergeant, said, Johnson, did you get that TNT? I said, yes, sir. Tell Colonel Smith I got what I got the primer cord to ignite it and everything. He said, I said, where am I going? He said, you see that incinerator over yonder where they gas those women and children? Go over there and dig down the side of it and put that TNT down about 6 inches on the ground if you can. And he said, put me about maybe two sticks, no more than that. So I went over there and dug it down. I told Sergeant was with me. I said, Sarge, let's just put the whole stupid thing in here. He said, Joe, you can't do that. I said, you watch me. I took my shovel and dug down, and I covered that 20 pounds of TNT up, and I run the cord out there, and I said, don't you hook that cord to that igniter out there till I get out there, because if you do, it's going to blow us all to pieces. So we went out there and got behind a bank, and I said, fire in a hole. He shoved that thing down, and that explosive went off. The last time I seen that incinerator was going towards the moon. I never did see it fail. I never did see that thing fail. And I said, and so he come down there, Colonel Smith come down there and said, Johnson, what in the hell did you do? I said, well, if 3 pounds was good, 20 is better. He said, well, you destroyed all them buildings. Look at the cushion out there. You blowed all them buildings down. I said, they don't need them buildings. They would use them buildings to dress those people to go in the gas chamber. They don't need them now. They ain't got them anyway.
So what was it like going in and seeing the people who had been prisoners in the camp?
Well, as we got through in there, they told us, now I'm going to cry and I can't help it. So they told us, they said, well, you can go down through there and you can see those people if you want to. He said, but give me your water canteen, because they're going to jerk that canteen off of your side and drink some water. They ain't had no water out on the wind. They ain't got no food, so you don't have no food, but they'll get that water if they can. So I started right down through there, and the first person I come to was an old Jewish man. He looked to be about 75, 80 years old, and he was sitting over just a shaking. I went over and got his hand, and I talked to him a little in German, a little in whatever I could talk to him in. And he started crying. He said, I know Americana come. I know Americana come. I know I be free. I know Americana come. I said, well, you free. You can go home. He said, well, you don't know how I thank you for your service. Well, I went on down, and this little lady was squatted down there. She looked to be probably about 25, 26. She had 2 little girls and a boy. And she was sitting there just a-crying. She was dressed to go in the chamber, gas chamber. But we done blowed that gas chamber to hell and back, excuse the language. And I told her, I said, I talked to her every way I could, every language I could think of, she might do it. And I couldn't ever get her attention. So I walked over to her and I said, nix kaput. Now, kaput in German means you're dead. You know that, don't you? I said, nix kaput. She said, ish nix kaput. I said, no, you nix kaput. She said, Fräulein's and little girl, they call them Fräulein, little girls, Fräulein. Fräulein kaput. I said, no, you're free. She said, little boy, I said, no, you're free. They not going to put you in a gas chamber. she got up and hugged me and peed all over me, went right down my breeches, and I come out the other end down there. Sergeant Waters said, "Johnson, you wet your stupid pants. Go change your breeches." I said, "Sergeant Waters, that was the best pee I ever been peed on." That lady was so excited I say them babies, she was so excited she couldn't hold it. "That's all right, it won't hurt me, it'll dry." Young lady, you know you have a lot of experience in the war, don't you? You don't ever forget them memories, you know that?
Do you remember what it was like to see the people on the rail cars?
I don't know what we...
The rail cars?
Well, when we got to Dachau, there's 2 rail cars out there. Flat cars, like all paperwood on. And they had those about just stacked 8 foot on each side of those rail cars, like paperwood. I don't know how many thousands was on those 2 cars. I couldn't tell you. It was bad. They were going to send them to the landfill, but we got in there before they got to the landfill. But anyway, I went by this rail car. This one little German girl. She looked at me she's probably 6 or 8. She had the prettiest blue eyes I ever seen. Had blonde hair and blue eyes. She is dead. She looked me right in the eye, and I said, "Sweetheart, I'm sorry I didn't get here in time to save you. But one day or another, maybe I'll meet you. Maybe one day I'll meet you." Well, young lady, I wouldn't take nothing in the world for my service to this country. It's the greatest country in the world. The people don't know how great this country is. They need to travel around the world and see some of the countries that don't have what we got.
There's a lot of people who think the Holocaust never happened.
Oh,
they
they need to come see me. Let them come see me. When I get through with them, they'll know it. Oh, that's a terrible thing. Oh, it's terrible. Yeah, they gassed those women and children. But we shut that one down. Dachau, we shut it down. I'll guarantee you.
What do you think about, recently we've had people in the news that are, waving Nazi flags and these neo-Nazis marching and things.
Well, that's treason to this country. It's treason. They shouldn't allow it. They should lock them up. Like that one old gal on TV said, "I've been thinking about going and blowing the White House up." They should put her in jail right then, put her citizenship and send her over into Afghanistan or Pakistan or Iran, wherever. Send her over there somewhere else. Pull her citizenship. Don't let her come back in the country. That's what they should do. I'd stop some of that mess.
So over the years, what are some things that you have received or acknowledgments that you've received from either other governments or from personal citizens in Europe where you served?
Well, I received a lot of stuff in the mail from Bastogne, Belgium, Ardennes Forest. And they said, "Mr. Johnson, we've seen your interview on TV. We've never met you, but my name is so-and-so. I got some letters back there. I got their letters back there in the thing." And they said, where would Belgium be today if it wasn't for the American troops? We want to tell you how much we thank you for liberating our country." Well, they sent me a $2 bill. Said, I want a picture of you now and one in the military." So I sent them one when I was in the military, and I sent them one today. And they got it and sent it back. Said, "We appreciate the pictures. We appreciate the pictures." And so they passed it on down to 2 or 3 people. I got several letters from those people, but I already responded to them. I sent it right back. They always sent me a $2 bill. I didn't know we had no $2 bills overseas, but every one of them sent me a $2 bill, so I'd send the postage back. I had the money to send it. They didn't have to do that.
Now, what did you receive from the country of France itself?
Well, I received the highest honor you could receive. The Legion of Honor. It's the highest honor you can receive from a foreign country. And they said, how'd you get it? I said, when I got off of that LST, I waded in that water right up to my titties with my M1 rifle over my head. That's the way I got it.
So share some fun stories with us. Tell us a little bit about Freddie. Who was Freddie?
Who?
Freddie. Who was Freddie?
Oh, Freddie. Oh, I got to tell you this. Well, I had a, you always have a buddy in the service that goes with you on reconnaissance. we had to go on reconnaissance every day. Well, Freddie was my friend. He went with me every day, but he had never took a bath, not in the military, and he'd never brushed his teeth. His teeth was as gold as they could be because he never brushed them. But we put him under a 55-gallon cold water drum, put some OK soap on him. We give him a bath. We couldn't do nothing with his teeth, but we gave him a bath. Anyway.
How long did you spend in Europe?
It's on my discharge, 2 years and something. 2 years and something. I get, now after the war was over, they put me with the CIA. I went with the CIA. And I went all over Europe picking up those SS troops. You know, that was Hitler, Gestapo, that was his elite. They was the one that gassed all those Jews. And we went all over Europe, and we went up to Innsbruck, Austria. That's the prettiest place in Europe if you ever get a chance, Innsbruck, Austria. We went up there, and the CIA come out there and said, Colonel Smith, you and your driver now, you won't get back down to Nuremberg because this guy's going to kill you right there. That guy's going to kill you because he ain't going to go down to Nuremberg. He knows what's going to happen when he gets to Nuremberg. I said, well, he ain't gonna bother me. So I had a box of handcuffs about that square. Handcuffs, and in my Jeep I had a post welded in there about that big around, had rings on it. And so I said to myself, he ain't gonna bother us. So I told him, I said, give me your feet. He said, Octoon. I said, that's attention. I said, no, it ain't no Octoon. You put your feet down there. I put them handcuffs around his feet and handcuffed him to that pole, both feet. Now handcuffed both hands to that pole, them rings. And we got going, and he was really upset. He knows what he was going to get. And we got down the road about 6 or 8 miles, and he said he went to Detroit on an exchange student from Germany. He learned a little English. He said, driver, turn Jeep over, what happens? I say, throw me and Colonel out, you on the bottom. He said, that ain't fair. I said, you started the war.
Now, why did you never receive an officer's commission while you were in the military with everything that you did?
Well, they begged me to take a commission. I wouldn't do it because, you know what? I was trained to be a rifleman. I wasn't trained to be a leader, not to take people in the military. So I didn't want to accept it because I didn't want to take a bunch of little boys into a battle that I didn't know nothing about and get them killed. So I refused. They said, Johnson, you don't need to do that. I said, just let me be a private first class. That'd just be just fine with me. You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to worry about it.
Now, what was your experience with friendly fire being an anti-aircraft artillery?
Well, I had a lot of experience. We crossed the Siegfried Line in Germany. The old Siegfried Line was the World War I line. You know that, don't you? You know history. We crossed that, and the Germans started shelling us with tanks. They had 88 millimeter on those tanks, and they started shelling us. And that shell hit right close to me, hit my left leg. And there's the sign of it right there. You see that? Hit that left leg there.
And did you receive a Purple Heart for being wounded in battle?
No.
Why not?
Well, when I stayed with the CIA over there so long, my daddy got a hold of the Red Cross. The Red Cross come down there, and they got on the colonel, and they was chewing him out, and the colonel come down there and said, Johnson, you got me in trouble. I said, what did I do? I ain't done nothing wrong. He said, your daddy got a hold of the Red Cross, and you got to go home now. You've been over here 2 years or better. And you stayed over here 6 months after the war, and he wants you home right now. I said, well, they got a ship leaving Bremerhaven, Germany at 2 o'clock this afternoon, and that ship's not going to pull out till you on it. Get your stuff ready. So I had about 30 minutes to get my stuff ready. Well, I left a lot of stuff I didn't need no way. We got in an old Jeep. We went down to Bremerhaven, Germany. They done all the people down the load on there has an old converted cattle ship. That thing didn't make no knots at all, hardly. Took us 21 days to go from Bremerhaven, Germany, back to New York, to Boston. When we went over, when I went overseas, I went to Boston and shipped out of Boston on an Aquitanian. So four stacks, four propellers, and it made 21 knots. So we went over there in 5 days. When we come back, it took 21 days. That shows you how bad that old ship was. It's an old converted cattle ship, stunk like everything. And
now, go ahead.
And the stupid British fed us split pea soup and kidney soup. Oh, godly. Oh, you ain't never heard nothing. You ain't never eaten nothing like that in your life. That kidney soup would turn you, it'd turn Satan's head. It's so bad.
Now, you got a silly nickname when you were deployed over there. How did you get that nickname?
Well, now, young lady, you know we had to go on reconnaissance. You know that. Every day we had to go on reconnaissance. One day the captain come down there and he told my platoon sergeant, said, Sergeant Waters, you see them warehouses down yonder? He said, yes, sir. He said, I want you to send somebody down there and I want you to go on reconnaissance. We got to give a report what's in them warehouses. Well, I went, Freddie, I told him, I said, Sergeant Waters, where's Freddie? He said, he's got diarrhea this morning. He's sick. He can't go with you. I said, I'll go by myself. He said, Johnson, you can't go by yourself. I said, well, turn these guns around. If they bother me, just shoot amongst them. Don't worry about me. Just get them. They said, we don't want you to go by yourself. I said, I'm going anyway. Just take them binoculars and you watch me. I went down there and I opened this door and that scent come out and I slammed that door to it. Good God. I went back up there and I said, Sergeant Waters, tell the captain that all them people are dead. All them German soldiers in there, all of them are dead. He said, Johnson, we have to go in there and give a head count to headquarters, see how many dead Germans are in there. I said, well, they're all dead. You don't need to do that. He said, how many is it? I said, I don't know how many is it. I didn't see none of them in there, but I smelled them. He said, we got to go back. I said, all right. So went back down there and opened that door and Sergeant Waters said, golly, what in the world is that? I said, Sergeant, I told you all them people were dead in here. He said, well, we got to get in there and count them. So we had an old block there, and I turned that block up. He stood up on the block, got it. Warehouse was up about that high. I pushed him in there, and we got in. We went probably about 20 foot, and we like to slip down. It was an old Limburg cheese factory. And if you ain't never smelled old Limburg cheese, it's rotten. You ain't never smelled nothing. A rat smells like perfume inside that stuff. And so they called me Cheese from then on and said, your name is Cheese. So I got the nickname Cheese. Go tell Cheese, he'll do it.
What about the P-51 Mustang that you had to shoot down?
Okay, well. Now the 8th Air Force out of England supported us. Out of B-17s, P-47 and P-51 Mustang. That was the fighter plane. P-47 Thunderbolt was a fighter plane, and the P-51 was a fighter plane. They escorted those B-17s. And we crossed the Rhine River at 2 o'clock at night, and we got on the other side. We knew hell was going to break loose, so we dug in real good. And good daylight coming. It must have been around 7:30 in the morning. 4 P-47s come up, and they looked at us. They went around and looked at us, but they went on. They didn't bother us. In about 30 minutes, 4 P-51 Mustangs come up. And they looked at us, and this one guy on the left wing peeled off upside down. Here he come. Here he come. He leveled off, and we jumped in the gun emplacement and went right over. He got the curtains on our truck. He cut the curtains on our truck, but he needed us because we were down in the gun emplacement. He went on and pulled on up, and I told my platoon sergeant, I said, Sergeant Waters, I hate to do this, but he comes back, he's mine. He said, get him. So he pulled up and turned around like that, and I said, you don't know what you fixed to get into. So he turned off, and I didn't hear the guns firing, but I seen the black smoke coming out of the wing. I knew he was firing at us. So I flipped that 40 millimeter, had 9 rounds in a hopper, automatic, and those rounds was about that long, about that big around. I turned it all on automatic. I tried to hit the cockpit, but I hit right behind the cockpit and cut the tail off. He didn't have an injection seat. He just turned it upside down and fell out. He fell out about maybe 200, 300 feet from us, a little better. And I was going out there. I was going to kick his butt, and I was going to whip him. I had made up my mind I was going to whip him. I went out there and I said, Lieutenant, what in the hell are you doing firing on us? He said, you an American? I said, it was at 6 o'clock this morning. He said, how come y'all across the river? He said, when we got briefed in England, the 8th Air Force told us anything on the east side of the Round River is duck shoot. We could shoot anything we wanted to shoot. I said, well, we don't have no phones. The Germans done cut all our phone lines. So we don't have no way to get a hold of them. I said, well, they're coming. If we don't get a hold of them, they're going to take care of y'all. I said, we'll handle it. Let them come on. We'll handle it. So I guess it was about 11 o'clock. General Patton come down there. He said he knew that somebody shot an American plane down. He come down there, and our captain was Captain Eagle. He is from Boston. He said, Captain, I understand your unit shot an American plane down today. He said, yes, sir, they did. Said, Sergeant Waters' unit done that. He went over and Sergeant Waters was just a shaking. He said, Sergeant Waters, did y'all shoot that American plane down? He said, yes, we did. He said, who shot it down? Private First Class Johnson over there. He came over and said, soldier, why'd you shoot that American plane down? I said, sir, he fired on us twice. I tried to run him off, but he wouldn't go. And I said, the last time he come in there, he cut the curtains on our trucks, but we jumped in a gun emplacement. He didn't hit us. He said, I'd have kicked your tail if you hadn't have shot him down.
So what was your experience with some Polish soldiers who had been taken into the German army by force?
Okay. Well, here again, we have to go on reconnaissance. So here again, I'm by myself. I go down there by myself. Fred is always sick because he never brushed his teeth, never took a bath. He had diarrhea just about all the time, bless his heart. I felt sorry. They should have sent him to the hospital, let him stay in the hospital. But anyway, I said, Sergeant Waters, can Freddie go with me? No, Freddie can't go today. I said, well, y'all need to send him back to the hospital, let him get well, because give me somebody else. I need somebody to go with me. I said, I'm going to go by myself. He said, well, I don't want you to do that, Joe. I said, Sergeant Waters, you and the captain, get your binoculars and just watch me, and if anybody bothers me, shoot him. Don't worry about me, just shoot them. I walked down, and they had haystacks shocked like this. They had oats in there for the cows in the wintertime. They just stacked all around the place there. I got right in the middle of it, all them haystacks come apart with a white flag hovering. Conrad, Conrad, Conrad. Well, I said, hell, I got myself in a mess. I'm in the middle of 40 German soldiers, right in the middle of them by myself. They was hollering, Conrad, Conrad. And directly I heard this one guy hollering over there. I didn't know who these people were. I knew they were German soldiers, but they had on a helmet. And so this one guy was hollering. He was an SS officer. He was with these kids. They were Polish soldiers. They weren't American. They were Polish. And Hitler they drafted, he took over Poland in 1939, if you know history. And Hitler took all the wealth out of Poland and all the manpower. He put those kids in the military and put an SS officer there. If they didn't kill Americans, that SS officer would shoot them. But now they done seen me as American, so they wanted to get rid of that officer. So they jumped on him, and they was beating him, man. They blooded him up like you can't believe it. I run over there and got him off. He said, I said, don't do that. We're going to interrogate him. And I told that German officer, I speak to a little German, I told him, I said, boy, you was just about kaput. He said, damn near kaput. I said, yeah, you're going to make it. We'll keep you straight. I'll give you some aid. I got him up, and I got him ahead of him, and these 40 German soldiers, they were Polish. I asked them where their guns was. They said, all stacked down there. So they had them stacked up way away from them. And they said to me, American soldier, we have no water for 7 days and no food for 7 days. We can't make it up that hill. We ain't strong enough to get up that hill. I said, oh yeah, you can make it. Come on, you will go. So I went ahead of them, and Sergeant Waters said to Captain Eagle, Captain Eagle, come here, I want to show you something. He handed him the monocular. He said, look down yonder. He said, what in the hell is Joe Johnson doing? There's 40 German soldiers behind him. He's ahead of them, and they following him with a white flag. What in the hell is he doing? I got up there, and Captain Eagle said, Johnson, what you gonna do with these prisoners? I said, you the commanding officer, that's your problem. It ain't mine.
So what did you do with them?
Well, they wanted uniforms. They wanted American uniforms so they could fight the Germans. They wanted to take back Poland. I said, oh no, we've already took Poland. We done run the Germans out of Poland. You all right? They said, yeah, but give us some uniforms. We tried to get Patton to give them some American uniforms, but Patton said, you can't do it. They're German soldiers. They're trained for enemy. I said, well, they're good. They'll be good soldiers, and they know the tactics. They wanted uniforms, all they wanted. And they wanted food and water. So I told him, God, I said, come on. I got them up the hill, and we had old chow trucks there, and we had them K rations in boxes. Looked like egg cartons, you know how they come. I tore up one of them, and I give him one of them. I give him two of them apiece. They eat 2 of them K rations. And in them K rations, you had 3 things in them K rations. You'd get one or other that had cheese, potted meat, and corned beef hash. When you got one of them K rations, you get that one. It is mixed up. You get either corned beef or cheese every time you got one. And so I give them, and they said, "You got any water?" I said, "Oh yeah, we had water on the side of the truck." So I went down there, and they put the canteens on there, and I filled the canteens up. They drank that water, and they said, "We're ready to fight now. Give us something to fight with." They were excited. They wanted to go take their country back. Now, them guys was mad with Hitler. Buddy, let me tell you something right now. If the U.S. Army would have put them guys in there, they'd have been 100% good soldiers. No doubt about it.
So how did you return them? Did y'all keep them, or what did you do with them?
No. The colonel the captain didn't know what to do with them. He said, "John, what you gonna do with these prisoners?" I said, "Sir, you're the commander. That's your problem." He said, "What we gonna do with them?" I said, "Give them American uniforms. They want to fight. They want to fight Hitler. You can't do that." So they went out there and sat down, and he said, "Who's gonna put the guard over?" I said, "You don't need to put no guard over them guys. Hell, they our friends. They're the best friend you got in Germany right now. We've done fed them, watered them, and they want to fight the Germans. You ain't got to. What you gonna put a guard over them guys for? You don't need to do that."
Did y'all load them up on a train?
No, we put them on a truck and sent them back behind the line.
And then which ones was it that you put on the rail cars and sent back?
No. We sent them back by truck.
Do you remember, though, which group it was that you loaded up in the rail cars and sent back?
Oh, that's another. I'll tell you that. Well, that's at the end of the war. Let's go ahead and get what she wants. Okay, so we in Germany. We've been in Germany for quite a little while. Now let me tell you something that I know. There ain't nobody on this earth that don't believe in Jesus Christ. If they say they don't, they're lying. The truth ain't in them. We had this 3 guys, 2 of them was Mexican Americans out of San Antonio, Texas. They filled those guys in, and so these 2 guys filled a vacancy where we lost a couple of guys, and they spoke Spanish. They didn't speak English. They had a little bit of English, but most Spanish. And we crossed the Rhine River, and we was walking up there, and the German officer jumped up and shot that kid right in the stomach. He said, "Oh God, Joe, I'm shot." Well, I said, "I'm sorry you got shot," but I went over there and I said, "Mark, what did you say?" "I don't know." I said, "Let me tell you what you said." "Oh God, Joe, I'm shot." Why'd you call on God for? You told me you didn't believe in him." "Well, I guess that's just what I done, didn't I?" I said, "Yeah, you still believe him. That's just what you think you don't believe in. But when chips are down, you'll believe in him."
All right, so after Germany? Where'd you go after Germany?
Well, after, see, I went all the way to Berlin with Patton. You know that, don't you? All the way. Well, Patton knew where Hitler was and Eve. Eve was Hitler's girlfriend. They wasn't married, but they lived together. Well, Patton knew. The CIA told him where Patton and Eve was. Well, we was hoping that the Russians wouldn't get to him first, but Russia was on that side and they were closer to him than we were, so the Russians got him. But Patton was wanting to get him so bad you can't believe it. But the thing about it is, Hitler never let nobody get him, because he told his guards, he said, when they get close enough, said you shoot me right in the forehead right there and blow my brains out. I don't want to be captured. And so the guard come in and said, Fuhrer, the Russians about 2 or 3 blocks down there. He said, give me your Luger. Hand him that 45 Luger, and he put it right there and blowed his brains out of his own self. He pulled his own trigger, blowed his brains out. You know that? Did you know that? Yeah. No.
So were you in the CIA, or were you just
well,
assigned
as
to
the
the
war was over, they signed me to the CIA. Yeah.
But were you a CIA officer, or were you still
No, I was
military?
just a private first class. I was a driver for Colonel Smith. He was a CIA guy. All I done was drive for him. And when they see, he knew what he was going to do. I didn't know. And he told me, he said, Johnson, go down to motor pool. There's a new Jeep down there. Take it down to the welding shop, and they know what to do with it. So I went down there and got the new Jeep, and I took it to the welding shop, and old big sergeant come out there. He had an old big gut, looked like he was pregnant. And I said, Sarge, Colonel Smith sent me down here and said you know what to do with this Jeep. I don't know what to do with this Jeep. I said, well, you won't have a job at 5 o'clock. You better find out. Well, I don't know what to do with it. Well, I didn't know what he was going to do with it. He called and found and said, weld a post in the back of that Jeep on a big stand like this and put a post in there with rings on it. He said, what you going to do that for? He said, don't ask no question. So they fixed it up, and the motor pool called and said, your Jeep's ready. So I went down there and I come back and I said, Colonel Smith, they've run our Jeep. No, Johnson, they haven't run your Jeep. You'll find out what it is. He threw a box of handcuffs in there and said, you'll find out what it is. So that's whenever we went up to Innsbruck, Austria. That's when we picked up that bad guy. He was a bad dude. But he didn't go very far, because I had both hands handcuffed to that steel post with them rings and both feet. He couldn't do nothing but cry. Boy, he was upset with me. I told him, I said, well, you started the war. You should have thought about that before you started the war.
Were you around when Patton got demoted for slapping the enlisted man?
Well, yeah, I knew about it, but we wasn't far from him. Yeah.
Just curious.
Well, now, you know why Patton done it, don't you?
No, I just knew he slapped a guy who got demoted.
Patton was a warrior. There's no doubt in my mind. We'll never have a warrior no more like General Patton. And he didn't like a guy that was yellow-bellied. And this kid didn't want to fight. He wanted to get out of the service. He was nervous and frightened. He was showing his fanny. And that's how come Patton to slap him. Said, soldier, we over here to win a war. We can't win a war with people like you. And he slapped him so he thought he could get his attention, but he didn't. He just kind of got in trouble for doing it.
So you were there whenever he had his accident. Tell us about that.
Well, after the war was over, of course, I was working with the CIA. On the Autobahn, the Germans had that Autobahn, a 4-lane highway. That's a super highway. We had a watering station down at the bottom of the hill down there. We had to get water from the Corps of Engineers that had been run through a purification, because the Germans tried to poison us with water. So we had to get water out of there. We couldn't drink no water except out of that station. Well, our water truck went down there that day, and it had 3 tanks on there with baffles on the top. And when you fill them tanks up, you're supposed to put them baffles down so they wouldn't come out. Well, the driver didn't tighten the baffles down. He just let them fall, He come out on that Audubon. It was freezing below zero. He come out there, and that water sloshed on that Audubon. And that black ice was 250 foot. Nothing but black ice. Well, Patton's driver come over here in a 1941 Plymouth. I can see it as good as I can see you. He come over that hill, and the driver seen that black ice in time. If he went on through it, he might have survived. But what happened was, he put on brakes and went around and around, and went up on the back of that truck and knocked the back glass out of the car. And Patton was sitting in the back, and it hit Patton right there in the neck there. I guess it must have broke his neck or something, or injured his neck real bad. Anyway, he was in pitiful shape. Well, they got him out and got him to the hospital. But he lived 2 or 3 weeks. His wife got over there. You know, he was talking to his men. He said, I was hoping I'd get killed by a damn German shot, but I'm going to die from a vehicle accident. That's old George for you. I got to tell you this about George. I saw this, and this was so funny to me, I can't believe it. We was up in Nuremberg, Germany, and them B-17 done tore all them towns up. And there's a cathedral up there. And they done bombed that cathedral till all it was there was a podium where the minister was standing behind the podium and preach. Well, General Patton seen that podium up there. And we needed some fair weather so we could fight. Weather done closed us in, a monsoon rain. Our tanks were bogging down. We couldn't get supplies. We couldn't get nothing. We were just having a hard time. And Patton went in there and listen to what he said. You can't believe it. He got behind that podium and he said, he didn't say Father in heaven. He said, Sir, this is George Patton. Would you give me 5 days of pretty weather? Please give me 5 days of pretty weather. Thank you. That's all he said. He ran out there. You didn't know that, did you? Huh?
Did you get your 5 what days?
Well, we got our 5 days. Yeah, we got our 5 days. Sure did. Yeah, we sure did.
All right, so you come home from the war, and I know you had a couple of odds and ends jobs, but how was it that you came to work for the United States Air Force?
Well, when I come home, I was living in Mobile. Well, no, I wasn't living in Mobile. I was working with the Alabama Highway Department, and I run this supply truck. I hauled all their engines and their tracks out for all their Caterpillars and stuff, and all their tires and things for their truck and equipment. And I never did know where I was going to stay at night. And I got tired of that. And I was down at the Spanish Fort down at that. It's a prison camp down there, but it's trusty. They don't have no guards as trustee. And I stayed in that prison camp at night, but I stayed in a separate barrack away from the prisoners. And it rained and the weather was bad. And I got up that morning, so I told my supervisor, I said, I'm going to go over to Mobile. What you going to go over there for? I said, I'm just going to go over there and look around. Now, we was at the Spanish Fort. You know, the Spanish Fort's about 18 miles from Mobile, maybe 20, I don't know, whatever. Anyway, I went over there and went to Brooklyn Air Force Base. And I went to the personnel office. And I knew I couldn't qualify for nothing. So the girl said, go up there and see what you can qualify for. So I went up there and it said, aircraft freight loader. I said, well, I can load airplanes. I can load boxes on the truck. I can do that. So I put that down. I filled it out. She said, Mr. Johnson, you're a World War II veteran. I said, yes. He said, you got to go to building 45, the air freight terminal, W.C. Smith. He's over there. He's waiting on you. He knows you're coming. I went over there and he had somebody in the office, and I sat down a minute. And so the guy come out, his secretary said, Mr. Johnson, you can go in. Mr. Smith stood up and I shook his hand. He said, sit down. I sat down and I said, Mr. Smith, I'm looking for a job. He said, you got a job. You got a job. Said, you're a World War II veteran. I can't turn you down. You already got a job. You need to come and get come and get Mr. Johnson a time card. Take him down to the clock alley and show him his time clock where he punches in and punches out. And said, you got a job. I said, Mr. Smith, what you gonna put me doing? He said, well, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put you out there working. I'm gonna watch and see what you do. When I come off the farm, so I worked. And you can't believe a lot of them people went on breaks. They'd get 3 or 4 breaks a day. I didn't give no breaks. I didn't care nothing about no break. I was strong and healthy, and I worked out there. And Mr. Smith's office was upstairs, and it was upstairs in 3-story. And he opened that window and he looked down there. He'd watch me, and I was down there working. Everybody else was in the break room, either playing cards or drinking coffee, whatever. And I wouldn't go in. I was always working. And one day he said, pulled the window, said, Johnson, come up here. So I was just to shake it. I said, I know I ain't done nothing. What have I done wrong? I went up there and he said, sit down. I said, Mr. Smith, what have I done wrong? He said, you ain't done nothing wrong. He said, Johnny, I'm going to make something out of you. I said, you got to be kidding. He said, I'm going to make something out of you. I said, well, all right, what you going to do? He said, I'm going to send you to Morrison Field in Florida, right down there close to West Palm Beach. So what am I going down there for? He said, I'm going to send you to Loadmaster School. He said, you'll be a qualified loadmaster on any transport plane the Air Force has got if you can pass the test. Well, I went down there and I worked real hard because I was a little country boy, but I did my best I could do. I worked hard day and night. I stayed up at night to sometimes 11 o'clock studying how I could put all that equipment on that airplane and ballast. And so the colonel, he was over it, and he come down there and said, Johnson, I can't believe you passed all them tests you got there. I said, well, I can put all that stuff on the plane. I can do that. He said, yeah, but you got it all figured out. It's all on there in the plane's ballast, right? He said, what kind of MAC you got? MAC means where you got nose heavy or tail heavy. Well, I had it right over the wing. I said, I got 26 Mac. I said, he won't even have to use a trim tab. And he said, I can't believe it. I went back home and he said, Johnson, you passed that test. I'm glad of it. He said, now I got something else I want to tell you. Wichita Falls, Texas. He said, I got an opening in Wichita Falls, Texas. You want to go to that school? I said, what kind of school is it? He said, Officers Transportation School. I said, well, I'll take it. I don't know whether I'll ever use it or not. Anyway, I went to Shepherd Air Force Base and went through Officers Transportation School. Now, I didn't finish high school. And we had all these lieutenants there. They got their commission because they finished college. But some of them guys was dumber than I was. Bless their heart. So I had to help some of them guys. But anyway, I got in there and I went through that thing. I finally got through it. And I went back after I got through it. Mr. Smith said, John, I sure am glad you passed all that. I said, well, I got through it. I don't know how. Luck, I guess, is all the reason I got through it. Well, he said, somebody told me you eat a lot of them coconuts down there. I said, well, I took some of them coconuts off the trees, and I bored a hole in it, and I got that juice out of it. I drank that juice. I didn't eat much coconut, but I love that juice. He said, well, they said that's what you eat while you're down there. I said, it's a bunch of bull. They claimed everything.
So at one point, you saved somebody's airplane. Whose airplane did you save? Whose airplane did you save?
Well, I was at Brooklyn Air Force Base, and we had a squall line come up. You know what a squall line is? A terrible tornado. Just a real quick, like. Well, the commander of Brooklyn Air Force Base was a 2-star general. His name was General Callahan. I can see him as good as I can see you today. He pulled his plane up out there by the air terminal. They parked their plane. He got out and went on home. And they have an escape rope that's down there, a nylon rope. It's about that big around with knots on it. And they let the rope down, but they closed the door. That squall line come up and washed those chocks away from the wheels, and that wind started pushing that aircraft right towards the hangar. So the people in space control, I said, Mr. Johnson, what you going to do? I said, call transit alert and tell them that plane's going into that hangar. Well, they couldn't get there quick enough, so I run out there. And I went up that rope and opened the door and went to the cockpit. I said, well, I don't know. I ain't never been up here. I don't know what for. I need to know where the brakes is on this thing. So I hit that pedal, and it didn't work, but I hit that other pedal. That nose said, it just done that. I said, I was about that far from the hangar when I stopped that thing, and I held the brakes and opened the window. I was sitting in the pilot's seat, and the transit alert come down there and said, don't you turn them brakes loose. I said, I ain't going to turn them brakes loose. He said, it's going to go in that hangar if you do it. I said, I ain't going to turn them loose. So they got a big nylon rope hooked to the landing gear and pulled it back out of the hangar. General Callahan found out about it. He called Mr. Smith and said, Mr. Smith, you got a guy over there by the name of Joe Johnson. I want to meet him. I want him to go to San Antonio with me. I'm going out to San Antonio today. He said, I want him to go with me. Said he saved my airplane. Well, General Callahan, but he's a base commander. He's the commander of Brooklyn Air Force Base. Well, we got out to San Antonio. Now I didn't know nothing about Mexican food. I'm a little country boy from the South 40, so I don't know anything about Mexican food. All those tacos and jalapenos and all that stuff. So I didn't know what to order. So when the general ordered his food, I told the waiter, give me the same thing. I didn't know what I was getting into, sister. I didn't know what I was getting into. Well, they brought that food and I started eating. That jalapeno pepper set me afire. I bet I drank a gallon of water trying to put it out. But I made the biggest mistake I ever seen. that was so funny. But on the way back, I got to tell you this. On the way back, we was flying back and we went through a squall line, another storm. And we had a bunch of those guys that went out there. They were down in the floor back there, had a GI blanket on the floor. They were gambling. They was playing cards, gambling. And when we hit an air pocket, we went down about 2,000 feet before that plane caught solid air. Boy, it shook us like you can't believe it. Them guys folded that up and got up there and set up their hands. I said, what's wrong? They said, man, we don't need to be gambling. Weather like I said, shame on y'all.
Now, what did the general see fit that you were awarded for what you had done
Well,
for him?
Back then, young lady, a nickel was as big as a wagon wheel back then. Money was tight. Well, he gave me an award. I got an award, I think it was $680. Yeah, that award come with $680. And we were poor kids. We were poor. We were so poor we didn't know we was poor. I don't know how you can have less than nothing, but we just about had less than nothing. Anyway, I told Mama, I said, Mama, we're going to get a check from the government. She said, you kidding? I said, no, we're going to get a good check. So we got that check, we went to the bank and cashed it. So she said, Daddy, I need a living room. I need a bedroom suit real bad. I said, well, we'll go down to Sokol's. You get what you want. We went down there and she picked out a bedroom suit. They brought it out pretty soon. But anyway, reading, I tell you this. Terry, you still got that? Who's got the...
I do. I have that bedroom suit.
She still got a part of that bedroom suit. Ain't that something?
Do you remember the name of that award?
Excuse me?
Do you remember the name of the award you received?
Meritorious
Meritorious.
Service Award. Yeah. Yeah. Young lady, I had a lot of experience in my life. I achieved a lot of stuff in this life. I guarantee you. For a little farm boy in the South 40, I don't know how I made it, but I did. But let me tell you how come me here in Columbus. I was at Hill Air Force Base in Ogden, Utah. They said when Brooklyn Air Force Base closed, they told me I had to go to McClellan Air Force Base in California. Well, back then, I didn't want to take my family out there. We heard of yippies and hippies, and I didn't want to take my family out there. I didn't know nothing about hippies and yippies, so I didn't want to do it. So I went to Hill Air Force Base, and Alvin Smith was terminal manager. And he knew I was coming. I didn't call him, but he knew I was going to come out there. So he had somebody in the office. As they come out, I went in. I said, Mr. Smith, I'm looking for a job. He said, you got a job. I said, you're kidding. He said, no, you got a job. He said, I knew you was coming, Joe. I knew you was coming. I said, I never called you. He said, yeah, but I knew you was a shift manager at Brooklyn Air Force Base, and I knew that I was going to give you a job. I already knew that. He said, you got the job. And so I said, Mr. Smith, what you going to put me doing? He said, Joe, this is only 463L timber air terminal the Air Force has got. It's a mechanization. Had those luminous pallets, 88 by 108, and they loaded all that stuff on them luminous pallets, tied it down, put it on conveyor and rolled it in an airplane. You could load an airplane in 10 minutes, unload it in 10 minutes. I said, what you going to put me doing? He said, the third story up there, I got 98 women up there. You're going to be the office manager for those women. Well, I didn't know what, now brother, I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Good gracious, Jesus Christ couldn't get along with them people. Anyway, I went up there, I introduced myself, and there were some of those ladies real nice. We sat down and talked and whatever. I didn't know what my job was. I was just supposed to be over them to just keep them straight. That's what I was told. Anyway, we worked the graveyard shift because we loaded those Minuteman missiles on those C-5s and C-141s, and they had to launch in the daytime. They couldn't launch at night because it's 85,000 pound missile. That's a lot of weight on that airplane. So they had to miss a housing project if they had an accident. They had to get that plane away from the housing project, land somewhere else if they could. Anyway, that was an exciting time. Well, we got all them things loaded up and went down there. I went down there and I told Mr. Smith, he said, Johnny, what you going out on the ramp for? I said, I just want to go out there and be sure this plane gets off the ground. Well, it was a C-133. Now, you probably never heard of it. It was a turboprop. It was as big as a B-52, and it hauled about 100,000 pound payload. It hauled a lot of payload. Anyway, I had loaded that plane that night, and I just, for some reason, I didn't feel good. I went out there and sat down on the steps, and I was watching him. He went out and run away and run his engines up and took off. He went out over the Salt Lake and dumped his dump valve, and he dumped a rail car of fuel over the Salt Lake. It just looked like a crop duster, getting rid of that fuel to lighten that airplane. He had an emergency. And I seen all the fire trucks going to the end of the runway. I said, my heavens, he's got an emergency of some kind. But I could see the engine still running, turning. I didn't know what the problem was. Anyway, that old C-133 had what they call screw jacks for the flaps. And that screw jack, it worked through just like it had a notch in like a bolt, and it worked through there and pushed those flaps down. And then one of them flaps went down, one went up, and the plane should have rolled on in the runway, but it didn't. That pilot held it and didn't let that plane roll. I can't believe that. That's something. He come in and he hit the end of that runway, bam, bam, bam. Boy, I said, I don't know how in the world. He come out of that way and straightened the airplane up. I said, golly. He got on up to the terminal, and I went out to meet him. The little lieutenant colonel flying, and I said, Colonel, what happened? He said, there's a pile of damn junk, Mr. Johnson. I'll never get on it again. They can court-martial me. They can send me to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. They can kick me out of their service. They can send me anywhere. But the Air Force has got a damn pile of junk. Yeah, this is junk. It's a disgrace to the Air Force. Well, you know, boy, he was mad. That colonel was mad. He said, his sweat was coming off his head. He said, you know how close I come to dying? That close. I come that close to losing my life. He said, I pulled that yoke on that so hard I should have broke them cables, but they never did break. Thank goodness I got it straightened up in time to get it down. But he was mad. Lord, that guy was mad.
Well, let's backtrack just a touch. Whenever you were still stationed at Brooklyn Airfield, you were sent on a project to Redstone Arsenal.
Well, when I was at Brooklyn Air Force Base, I worked a lot. See, Mr. Smith's watching me. He watched me all the time. I didn't go to the break room and take coffee and gamble. I didn't do that. I always worked. I was glad of my job. I made $1.05 an hour, but I was proud of that $1.05 an hour. And he watched me, and one day he opened that window and called me up and said, "Johnny, come up here." So I said, "Now what have I done wrong? I ain't done nothing wrong." I went and walked up them stairs, went up there. The transportation officer was a lieutenant colonel, and Mr. Smith was the terminal manager. The colonel was sitting there with Mr. Smith. I went in, and the colonel said, "Mr. Johnson, sit down. We got to talk to you." I said, "Well, what have I done wrong?" He said, "You ain't done nothing wrong. You ain't done a thing wrong." I said, "Just listen to us." He said, "Mr. Johnson, the military has given us an assignment. I can't tell you where you're going. I can't tell you what you're going to do. It's all secret, secret, secret. Now all this is secret, so you can't do nothing. But you work a shift out there. You're a shift manager, and every 3 months you get all these people. You rotate every month. You get a different shift, so you know everybody in the air terminal. I need you to pick out 6 guys that I can get a secret clearing for them right away. 6 is aircraft freight loaders, and I want you to get 1 operator." I said, "My operator will be W.C. Strahan out of Lucedale, Mississippi." And I gave him the name of the guys I wanted. So Mr. Smith said, "We'll get them cleared as soon as we can." So one guy they couldn't get cleared. He said, "Joe, I got them all cleared, but one, can you give me another name?" I said, "Yeah, give me Horace Bell. You can clear him." They cleared him right away. And we was cleared for secret. And so I said, "Mr. Smith, what we going to do?" He said, "Joe, I can't tell you." He said, "Tomorrow morning, y'all be here at 6 o'clock. There'll be 2 staff cars out here. There's 8 of you. There's going to be 4 in each staff car. And when you get 50 miles out of Mobile, you could open your orders." They give me an order in an envelope, a 10 by 11 envelope. Said, "Confidential, do not open." Said, "When you get to Central Nell, Alabama, 50 miles out of Mobile." Now, Joe, I'm going to tell you something. And if y'all call home, you're going to Fort Leavenworth, Kansas forever. You'll never get out of Fort Leavenworth. So they made a believer out of it. We got up to Central Nell, Alabama. I pulled off the side of the road. The guys come up and said, "Joe, where we going? Where we going?" I don't let me over. I took the knife and opened it, looked at it, and said, "Report to Colonel so-and-so at Redstone Arsenal, Huntsville, Alabama." I said, "Now, what is the Air Force going to Redstone Arsenal for? Now, what in the world are we going to Redstone Arsenal?" So we got us Redstone Arsenal. You couldn't get in there, all that secret stuff they had. And I showed the guard my orders. He said, "Well, the colonel's waiting on you. He's looking for you. He's no use coming." So he called his office and said, "Colonel, your party's down here." So he said, "Tell him I'll be down there right away." So the colonel come down there and said, "Mr. Johnson, you the team chief?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Follow me." So I told the guy, "Y'all follow him." So we fell in behind him and went up to his office and had a big old office there, like a big office with long tables for about 15 to 20 people sat around, I guess, for conference. We sat around there, and I said, we just still know what we was going to do. Now, this is funny. You're going to laugh, but it happened. I said to him, I said, "Sir, can you tell me why we're here?" He said, "Yes, sir, I can tell you why you're here." "Nobody didn't tell you?" I said, "We don't know why we're here." I said, "We're Air Force and you're Army." He said, "Mr. Johnson, you're going to train on a Jupiter missile to put a satellite around the world." I said, "Colonel, what's a satellite?" He said, "It's a ball about as big as a wash pot. He'll go around the earth in about an hour." I said, "Bull." I said ugly word, but I caught myself. I said, "I don't believe that." He said, "Yeah, it's good." I said, "My heavens, why'd they pick us to do this?" He said, "Well, the Russian is trying to get a Sputnik up. We're going to try to beat Russia. You know, they got it up a week ahead of us. You know that history. You know history. The Russians beat us on a Sputnik." But anyway, we got that. We trained and trained and trained. And so they said. So the colonel come down there and said, "Mr. Johnson, you finished your training. We fatigued you. And you're doing real good. You can load that Jupiter missile on that airplane in an hour and tie it down. We're going to send one in here in the morning because the real ones come in." So said, "Be here at 6 o'clock." So we was there. We was staying in a motel. He said, "Go home tonight. Don't go out partying, no drinking. Y'all can't drink tonight. You can have no social drink. You can't party. Go home, get you a good night's rest, 'cause you trained all this hard, and tomorrow's the day." Well, we got up and got out there at 6 o'clock, and we heard this plane a coming. Old C-124 Glowmaster. He come around and he looked around it. Redstone Arsenal had a 6,000-foot runway. Here's a C-124 going to take a 45,000-pound Jupiter off a 6,000-foot runway. You ain't never heard of that before, but it will. It'll do it. Anyway, he come in and he hit the ground. Then he go around, touch the ground. He's checking that runway out. Because he knew what he was going to pick up. They already told him, the pilot. So I told him, I said, he'd come in and he got his flaps and his gears down, so he's going to land this time. He went in and went down and he got about 4,000 feet and stopped that plane, turned around, taxied it back up there. He said, "Well, Mr. Johnson, this is the real one you're going to load it on." I said, "Okay." So now, have you ever heard of von Braun? You know who von Braun was. He's a top scientist in Germany. He defected to the Third Army, and he told the United States military, he said, "If you will let me go to the United States, I'll build your missile system." Well, back then we were building airplanes with propellers and piston-type engine. We didn't have no jet system. We didn't have nothing, not nothing in the jet system. But von Braun done built all that missile system. He knew all about it. And he built that Jupiter missile to go in that airplane himself. Well, if you've never seen von Braun, he was about 5'9". He wasn't 5'11". A little kind of skinny little guy, but he was smart. He was intelligent as he could be. Well, we worked and trained on that thing, and so we started putting that real missile on the airplane. He come down there and he said, "Octoon." I said, "Was is los?" He said, "You speaking the Dutch?" I said, "Enough to get in trouble." I said, "What do you need?" He said, "You scratch that missile, it burns up in flight." I said, "We're not going to scratch that missile." He is so proud of that missile you can't believe. Of course, you know, he put a lot of time in it. Well, we got it on there and got it set in it. On the airplane out there, the middle of the airplane, there's a big red stripe there. It says CG of the airplane. And the missile had a red stripe on it that said CG. All I had to do was line those two lines up. It had a perfect balance on the plane. We got it all tied down, and the little colonel come out there to take it off, and he said, "Mr. Johnson, tell me how much tie down you got on here." I said, "I got you 20,000-pound chains and 10 50,000-pound chains." I said, "If you get to Florida Vandenberg, the missile will be there with you." I said, "You can fly upside down, sideways, whatever you want to. That missile ain't going to move. You just get to Florida Vandenberg, and the missile will be there." They went to Vandenberg. And we didn't have no communication. And I said, "Colonel, when you get airborne, if everything's all right, wiggle your wings so we know everything's good." So when he took off, he couldn't go out like he would. They had got some hills up there. They call them mountains and redstone up there, but there's a high hill according to the Utah mountains. Anyway, he took off out of the mountain, went up, and come back around, made a couple of. Third time he got over the hill, he wiggled his wing like the balance is good. I told my crew, I said, "Well, we've done our job. I guess we can go home." They said, "No, you can't go home till he gets halfway a point and no return." I said, "Well, he can't come back no way. We don't need to wait all that long." He said, "But you got to wait." Well, they got halfway from Redstone, Arkansas to Tinker Air Force Base in Oklahoma City. They called back and said, "Well, he's halfway. He can't turn back. He'll have to go on his destination. He has an emergency." So they released us and we come back home. Well, that was some outfit. Now I got all them pictures. You going to see all them pictures?
Yeah, Tara's going to actually scan copies of them, so I put them on
Okay,
video.
yeah, all right. You going to give her a copy?
Mm-hmm.
All righty. Well, now, young lady, I give the base a copy of them, and the information officer called me and he said, "Mr. Johnson, what are we doing with these pictures?" I said, "Colonel, that's history. That's history. I give the base one because that's history. I was involved in it." He said, "We don't know what to do with them." I said, Well, put them in the archives out there. That's history. You need to keep that. There's a copy out there unless they destroy them. But I wouldn't take a chance on it. I'm an old soldier. I lived a long time. I'm 93, but I want the world to know that General George S. Patton, old blood and guts, saved the world. I know that from the depths of my heart. I was with that man. I seen what he done. If Hitler would have got Russia and England, all you people would be speaking German today. All you people out now listening to me, you would be speaking German if he would have got Russia and England. But George Patton had a different system. He said, no, that ain't going to happen. That's not going to happen. And so you need to tip your hat to old General George S. Patton, because I guarantee you he saved the world. It ain't no doubt in my mind. And thank you for this interview. And remember what a great general that man was. When you see a World War II veteran, you need to tip your hat, because we saved this country. We saved the world. I know that. I know for as good as I'm sitting here. And I'm thankful for my military service. And I'd do it again for this good country.